Welcome back, baby. The NFL season is almost here, and I can't wait. I tell you what, it's the AFL's great, and I love it. The NBA was fantastic. The Olympics were sensational, but nothing gets me ready to rock and roll like the NFL. The pigskin, the gridiron, I absolutely love it. Have done so for more than a decade. It's tougher to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning when you've got three young kids who are up about 3 hours later, but I still get it done because those first 3 hours, when the alarm goes off, the first minute's difficult because you're just like, oh, geez, it's early, and I'm not sure about this. But when that first ball is kicked off, or when you've got red zone on and you've got 6 or 7 games all kicking off at once, it is all worthwhile. All worthwhile. September 6th here in Australia. Get up for it. Kansas City, the champs, the back-to-back champs, they host the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm expecting an upset in the season open, and we'll get to that either later in today's pod or next week. The Packers and the Eagles clash in week one. The Bengals, my Bengals, cop the new look Patriots. Dallas goes to Cleveland. What an interesting and intriguing game that is. The Rams and Lions, they play in an NFC playoff rematch. Aaron Rodgers, with a repaired Achilles, goes out west to tackle the San Francisco 49ers. What a week one we've got. What a season we'll have. You reckon the AFL season has had some drama and some entertainment? It ain't got nothing on what the National Football League can dish up. Today, I want to quickly snapshot all 32 teams, so buckle up for that. We'll try and get through that super fast. A few burning questions for the season. I'm looking forward as well to making some picks and predictions, because a couple of years ago, we found Mike Vrabel as Coach of the Year at $26, if you don't mind. And a bit of a fantasy football preview. Our draft, my draft, has been done. I'm very happy with it, but I'm a little bit too much of a drafter, a picker with my heart and not my head. Now, the burning questions for me, quickly, in the NFL this season. And let's start with, where are we going to start? Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers still Aaron Rodgers? Is he still a bad man? That's the question. When he arrived in New York, or New Jersey, really, the expectations and excitement were exploding for those who follow Gang Green. Problem is, Rodgers' Achilles only lasted 4 snaps, and his season, and ultimately that of the Jets, was over. They actually won the game that he went out with the torn Achilles, but his season and their season was done. Now, he's north of 40. He's coming back off a major injury. So how close to his MVP caliber self can he be? Is he 80% of his very, very best? I think if he is, then this team, which is stacked on defense, stacked at running back, stacked at wide receiver, can be a playoff-bound team and beyond. And one thing is for sure, whether we get the good Aaron or the bad Aaron, drama and entertainment will be there in Gotham City. The Jets, whilst Rodgers is playing quarterback for them, they will be must-see TV. Second question, do Saquon and or King Henry get Baltimore and Philadelphia over the hump? So Saquon Barkley goes from the Giants to the Eagles. You saw it on Hard Knocks, how that all went down. And Derrick Henry departs Tennessee after a magical run, and he lands beside Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. This is fascinating. This is fascinating. So Saquon arrives and plays beside Jalen Hurts. What a 1-2 punch that is out of the backfield. Both can run. Hurts can throw the ball, air the ball out, and we know Barkley can carry the rock, and Barkley can catch the rock, and he can make you miss. But he can also be unhealthy, and that's an issue for him. And if he is unhealthy, that'll be an issue for them. Derrick Henry beside Lamar Jackson. This is potentially the strongest 1-2 punch we've ever seen when it comes to running the ball. Lamar Jackson, when he wants to be, is untouchable. And you can touch Derrick Henry all you like, but he'll just run you straight over. He's been the rushing champ a few times over. And we know that he can punch it in from any part of the football field. So whichever team or whichever player, I should say, can get the job done, can stay healthy and can carry the rock for their team, it's got to push Philadelphia and or Baltimore right to the end, right to the finish line. If Barkley has a big season, an all-pro season, if Henry has an all-pro season, there's no reason why these two teams, they may even clash. They may even clash in a Super Bowl, if you can believe that. Question 3, will Chicago Bears rookie Caleb Williams be as good as advertised? His pre-draft hype was crazy. There was speculation that he wanted a stake in the franchise that drafted him. There was talk he would dodge certain teams. But fast forward through it all, and they tell us that his offseason, Caleb Williams' offseason as a Bear, has been sparkling, and his preseason form has been superb. And the Bears roster looks pretty good. The defense is good. There's some playmakers on defense, and there's some playmakers on offense. DJ Moore's there. We know he can get the job done as a hard-to-catch, make-you-miss receiver. So if Williams is as good as advertised, and if he's a franchise quarterback, and if he's a franchise superstar, the former USC Trojan, if he can get the job done in his first season or two, then the Bears can certainly rise up the rankings. And he looks close enough to a good thing when it comes to offensive rookie of the year. Question 4, I think we're up to. Do Dallas drop off the perch? The Cowboys are always a fascinating prospect. Whatever it is, whatever the season looks like, whether there's optimism for a Super Bowl or the expectation they might fall through the floor, it's always interesting with the Cowboys. I think they're going to struggle this year. And I'm not even certain that Jerry Jones and the crew are they're not setting them up to fail, but I don't know that they're setting them up for the ultimate success either. Tony Pollard leaves. They've signed or re-signed Ezekiel Elliott, and they've just recently signed Dalvin Cook. So two certainly over-the-hill running backs. CeeDee Lamb got his big bag, but he held out for a long time. What does the start to his season looks like? Always at the risk of injury when you haven't participated in the off-season. Philadelphia got better, acquiring Saquon. Washington have a franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And I guess the less said about Big Blue, the Giants, the better. So the division's not going to be easy. I wonder about the Dallas Cowboys. We know the season is big for Mike McCarthy, and we know it's big for Dak Prescott. And it feels like Dak Prescott is most definitely playing his last season as a Cowboy. Mike McCarthy, perhaps similar. So it's always a big season in Dallas. It's always fun following the ups and downs, the swings and roundabouts for the Cowboys. This season will be no different. Let's talk about my Bengals as the final burning question. I think we're up to number 6. I should have labelled them. I think the Bengals are set up for some success. Now, Trey Wingo, former ESPN anchor, I love his work. I respect his work, and I know he's well informed. He tweeted this morning on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, that there's been a bad vibe in Cincinnati all off-season. That makes me nervous. That makes me very nervous. Very, very nervous. Now, Jamar Chase has been holding out. He's got 2 years to run effectively on a contract. He's got 1 year on the deal and then a team option, which they'll most certainly pick up. He hasn't participated, and then he arrived. Zach Taylor said he's here, he's good to go. Then he didn't participate, and Zach Taylor said, I stuck my foot in my mouth. I shouldn't have said anything. So Chase's status is unknown, which is fantastic because I drafted him with my first pick 6 in the draft in the fantasy football world. Burrow is reportedly only able to throw, or has to have every third day off throwing because of that wrist issue. And there's even reports that it was touch and go whether he'd even play the game again in the offseason after that injury. So that makes me nervous. But if you want to look at the positive side of things, and when you're a fan of a team, you do, Chase will be back at some point. T. Higgins is playing for a max contract. We're going to get the best version of him. Burrow has finally had a full off-season and a full training camp. He's good to go. And I think the team got better. We know the defense is good. It's underrated, but it's good. Burrow was healthy for 5 games last year. 5 games, and they went 4-1, and they beat some very, very good teams in the process. Go and have a look at some of those games. They were very, very good performances from Burrow and from the Bengals when he was healthy. The offensive front just has to keep him upright. It has to keep him healthy. It just has to perform better than it has across his handful of seasons as a Bengal. And if an upright Burrow is there and healthy and able and willing, I think this is a team that can go all the way. Now, I'm telling you now, of course, I'm a fan and I'm a little bit biased, but he is baby Brady. He's an assassin. He can get the job done. They've just got to keep him upright. Now, fantasy football, we all love it. As I mentioned, our draft has been done. I'm in an 8-person league. We've got one starting quarterback, and many, many moons ago, I pinched a championship. Now, my quarterback, I found and I landed on Anthony Richardson. I grabbed Jaden Daniels as a bit of a smoky, perhaps keeper for next season if he blows up. Richardson is an intriguing prospect. He could be the real deal. I think he is the real deal as a dual threat playmaker, the unicorn in the NFL, where you can get, 6 to 10 points rushing from him per game, and then maybe another dozen or so passing. But injury is the concern. He played about 3 games last year before he went down with that shoulder issue. He only throws every second day. He's a young man. It worries me. But if he plays all, what do they play, 17, 18 games these days? If he plays all 17, I think he could be a top 3 quarterback in the fantasy world. As a running back, Bijan Robinson from the Falcons, some of his usage was just straight out weird and wacky last year. Arthur Smith didn't know how to use him at all. His fantasy owners would have been just pulling their hair out. But in comes Kirk Cousins. So they've got a more solid and a more reasonable quarterback that's going to keep that box a little bit more empty. We know Bijan can catch the ball anyway. I think he'll have a big season. He might be the best perform running back, maybe alongside Christian McCaffrey this season. T. Higgins is one at receiver I'm keen on. I did draft him. Now, I mentioned I drafted Chase, but I picked up Higgins as well. I think there's a lot of occasions where you can start both guys. You put Higgins in as your flex. He's a really great red zone threat. He's a big body. He's a jump baller. You can throw it up to him and he just goes up and grabs it. He's got great hands, strong hands. I think he's going to be playing spectacular football this year because he is on a prove-it contract. He is on a deal. He won't be at the Bengals, I don't think, next year because they won't be able to fit him in, but he's certainly a guy who's going to play his tail off to secure a long-term contract next year and prove he's worth $100 million or more. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end from Buffalo. Now, he showed signs late last year that he could be one of the better tight ends in football. Stephon Diggs is gone, so those targets are available. And when a fellow tight end, Dawson Knox, was injured, Kincaid averaged more than 6 catches per game. I reckon that's his new normal. I reckon that's where he's going to sit for the year. He'll be about half a dozen catches per game. So there's a few guys you should go after. I also picked up Travis Etienne, who I'm high on this year. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence and the Jags can just stay out of their own way and get the job done. Give the ball to Etienne either as a rusher or as a pass-catching back. So he's a guy I've got plenty of time for. I kept Garrett Wilson, which was a shrewd move. Didn't work out for me last year, but certainly, hopefully, he can get it done for me this year. Now, let's make a bit of money. Let's have a few predictions and a bit of fun. Now, divisional winners. I'm keen on my Bengals. You can get about $2.50 for them to win the AFC North. I'm keen on the Bills. People are fading the Bills. I'm going to go with the Bills. $2.85 to win the AFC East. They're the incumbents. New York are the favourites. The Jets are favourites, if you can believe that, at $2.50. Miami are also a bit of a threat. A few others I like. Joe Burrow over 27.5 passing touchdowns. I love that. Trevor Lawrence over 21.5 passing touchdowns. He's so much more talented than his prop line suggests. He just needs to get the job done. It's time for Lawrence to get the job done for us. A quick, as I mentioned earlier, a quick week one play because I want you to get the best number. Baltimore plus 2.5, preferably plus 3.5 would be amazing. I'm super keen on the Ravens in week one against the Chiefs. John Harbaugh, the coach, is 12-4 against the spread in week one. That is very, very good. So take the 2.5. If you can see 3.5, absolutely jump all over it. And maybe if you're brave, have something on the Ravens to win straight up. Of course, Detroit went to Kansas City to open the season and beat the champion Chiefs on their home deck. I think it happens again this year. MVP, I've got to have something on my guy, Joe Burrow. You can get about $10 or $11 in the marketplace. CJ Stroud, maybe as well, $15, $16 for him. Now, the Roughies, offensive player of the year. I'm going to go with 3 running backs. And if we get one of these guys right, we're in the cash. Jets back, Brees Hall. He's about $21 around the place, so that's the price I took anyway. Jahmyr Gibbs from the Detroit Lions. I think he could explode this year. His numbers, both regular season and playoffs, were big last year. And if he improves, look out. And Bijan Robinson as well. So all those guys are around 20-1, maybe even a bit longer for Robinson and Gibbs. I reckon have something on those 3 guys. Defensive player of the year. I have backed Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions. They've got a very good defensive front. They're going to be a more popular team or a more well-established national team, nationally recognized team this year. I reckon they're going to have some more big primetime games as well. We know about the offense with Jared Goff and that crew, but certainly Hutchinson, if they get a lead, Hutchinson as that edge rusher can pin the ears back and get after the quarterback, hopefully lead the league in sacks, make some big plays, and win us defensive player of the year. Coach of the year, maybe. Now, you got to go back through history. It's a strange award. The best performed coaches from the best performed teams don't really feature at all. So Raheem Morris with Atlanta is an $11 chance. I don't absolutely love the bet, but if you're asking me to pick one in Coach of the Year, it'll be Raheem Morris. And for the Super Bowl, I'm on the Bengals at $14 and I'm on the Texans at $17. Now, I'm going to fly through these because there are a heap of them. These are my best over-under team win totals. Atlanta under 9.5 wins. I think that's too many wins for them. Cousins arrives, which should help the big playmakers, but he's 36, coming off a major Achilles issue. Tampa will be competitive. Winning in New Orleans is always difficult, and they have the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs to start their season. That's not going to be easy at all. Denver over 5.5 wins. This might have moved. So if it's 6.5, maybe just call your Jets. But the secret's out on Bo Nix. Sean Payton has been gushing about him all offseason. The rookie from Oregon. They're done with Russell Wilson. The roster's actually quite good. So Denver plus 5.5. Don't take 6.5 if that's the number out there. Indianapolis over 8.5. I'm just going to back in Anthony Richardson here. I'm a big fan. I love him. Hopefully he doesn't get injured. I'm always worried that he's one play away from the next season-ending injury. Jonathan Taylor, Mike Pittman, the offensive talent is there. The defense is rock solid. I think they can go north of 8.5 wins. The Colts, it's a tough division, I do concede. Jacksonville, plus 8.5. Now I'm contradicting myself a little bit because of the division, but Trevor Lawrence has got too much talent for this team not to have a couple of big seasons. He's been a prodigy since he was at Clemson. He's been a prodigy with Jacksonville. He's had way too many fumbles, way too many cough-ups, but they tell us he's a generational player. My query on him, does he read the defense well enough? Does he understand things at the line of scrimmage? Can he compute what's going on? That's my query on him. But certainly the Jacksonville roster, the head coach is a championship winner. We've got Etienne. We've got Evan Ingram. We've got receivers. We've got a good defense. We've got a great head coach. I think they can go north of 8.5. And this one is probably my best of the year. Check the number again. New Orleans Saints under 7.5. I think the head coach, Dennis Allen, is in strife. I think he'll be the first coach sacked, which sucks to say, but you've got to say it. So New Orleans under 7.5, my best bet when it comes to the team win totals. And Pittsburgh, now this is a fun one. Under 8.5 wins. Mike Tomlin, we're going to take him on. Even though he is the most profitable underdog coach in NFL history, we're going to take him on and we're going to say this year is the year that they have a losing record. Russell Wilson's been named the starting quarterback. Not sure how long that's going to last. When you've got two quarterbacks, you've got no quarterbacks. I'm taking on Mike Tomlin and I'm taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in summary, the Falcons under, the Broncos over, Indianapolis over, the Jags over, and the Saints and the Steelers under. That's the way I'm playing those teams. Now, super quick individual props. Isaiah Pacheco plus 6.5 rushing touchdowns on the season. Bijan Robinson over 6.5 rushing touchdowns on the season. Bijan Robinson over 1,500 rushing yards on the season. James Cook plus 4.5 rush TDs. Breece Hall plus 1,025.5 rush yards. Mark Andrews plus 6.5 receiving touchdowns. Travis Kelce plus 6.5 receiving touchdowns. Dalton Kincaid, this is my favorite, plus 5.5 receiving touchdowns. And T. Higgins, this is my second favorite, plus 5.5 receiving touchdowns. So if you've only heard a couple of those, Kincaid and Higgins, both plus 5.5 touchdowns, that's the way I'm playing the season. Gamble responsibly. Make sure you make wise decisions. Now, Speed Jewel, the outro. I'm all but done. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to go week by week. The NFL is almost here. Cannot wait. 32 teams as fast as I can. Now, quickly, Arizona, Kyler Murray back will help, but the former head coach and the former GM thought he was a bit of a concern. Is he a concern? Is adding Marvin Harrison Jr. the thing that's going to help the Cardinals? Atlanta Falcons, Kirk Cousins arrives, which gives Bijan, Kyle Pitts and Drake London a chance, but he is aging and he is coming off injury. Baltimore, King Henry arrives and Lamar's a two-time MVP, but are the Ravens still as dominant on defense? Buffalo, Stephon Diggs goes, but maybe James Cook takes up the slack in the backfield as the lead dog, and Dalton Kincaid can become one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And hey, Josh Allen's still there. Carolina Panthers, hard to be as bad as last season. Hard to see them improving much at all. Chicago, the hype is there and the hype seems real. Playmakers on offense, playmakers on defense. And if the quarterback's a playmaker, look out. Cincinnati, keep Joe healthy and my Bengals can win it all, especially if Jamar Chase is back healthy and ready to rock. Cleveland, Nick Chubb's back. Myles Garrett remains, but everything in Cleveland relies upon Deshaun Watson. Is there anything left? Which version of Deshaun are the Browns getting? Dallas, CeeDee Lamb got his cash. Dak now wants his. Both will put up big numbers, but I think it's going to be a tough season in Dallas. Denver, the Bo Nix hype is gaining steam and momentum, and the head coach knows exactly what a great quarterback looks like. Detroit, can they top last season where they were all but in a Super Bowl? It's hard to see why not. Looking forward to what the Lions do next. The Packers, speaking of teams who jumped out of the ground, the late season charge was either an aberration or a sign of a juggernaut incoming. The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud blew our minds in year one. In year two, with Stephon Diggs in town, who knows what they can produce together and as a team. Indianapolis, Richardson at quarterback is back healthy, but his shelf life feels short unless he can learn to get down or get out. Jacksonville Jaguars, time for Trevor Lawrence to put up or shut up. Not that he talks a lot, but he's got all the tools, all the weapons to get it done. Kansas City, back to back to back. Does not feel that unlikely for this machine, who may have got better on offense, but worse on defense. The Raiders, contender, I think, personally, for worst team in the NFL. Will they move on Devontae Adams? I'm sorry to my good friend Gator, who loves the Raiders. No one else seems to. The Chargers, behind Jim Harbaugh, it feels like it's either a quick spike or a long road back to the top, or to the top for once, for the boys in sky blue. The Rams, Stafford, last hurrah. Of course, Cooper Kupp's in a similar boat. Maybe even Sean McVay's in a similar boat as well. No Aaron Donald leaves a big, big hole. Miami Dolphins, they'll be world beaters when it's warm, and they'll be no hopers when it's cold. Can they overcome these issues when the weather gets nasty and when the weather gets naughty. Minnesota, JJ McCarthy goes down. Just means the other JJ, the real JJ, Justin Jefferson, is going to have to carry a big load. Can he play quarterback? New Orleans, another contender for worst team in football. Not much needs to be said. New England as well, also a contender for the worst team in football. The New York Giants, Hard Knocks told us they're going to lay it all on Daniel Jones. That's a mistake. The New York Jets, Rodgers is back, and should he remain healthy, the drama, the anticipation, and the hype will be there all season long, and I'm here for it. Let's go. Philadelphia, Saquon into the backfield alongside Jalen, alongside A.J. Brown, alongside Devontae Smith. The offensive line probably gets a little bit worse. The defense definitely got worse, but we shall see what Philly can do. Pittsburgh, as I said, when you got two quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. They're telling us Russell Wilson is the man. Mike Tomlin is the man. But can he keep this team afloat? We shall see what happens in the Steel City. San Francisco, the window is quickly closing. Trent Williams is not in camp. They've got to get it done. Ayuk's been upset. Kyle Shanahan and the Niners have maybe got one last season to get it done. Otherwise, it's time to blow her up. Seattle, Pete Carroll's long gone, and it's really hard to know what to expect from the boys in the Pacific Northwest. One thing's for sure, they'll play hard and they'll be tough to beat, particularly up there in Seattle. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield feels at home. He feels settled. He feels mature. He feels competitive, and they'll be tough to beat, no doubt about it. Tennessee, Will Levis, he loses a great coach, but he gets a young offensive-minded coach. I doubt we'll see much from the Titans this year. They will be hard to beat in Tennessee. Washington, finally, Jaden Daniels from my LSU Tigers. He'll need to carry a big load. I think he can, but he's only little. Don't try and run anyone over. Get out of bounds. Get down. Live to see another day. That is the NFL Snapshot. I'll see you before week 1 rolls around. I can't wait. My name's JJ, and thanks for watching.